It's time for the Movin the Chains podcast. Your home for high school football coverage in the Palmetto State. Every team, every game, every week. And now your hosts, Kevin Thomas and Jerel Hendricks.
Welcome into Movin the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Jerel Hendricks here for our Week 10 recap show brought to you by Folly Road. Jerel, the regular season has come and gone. Hard to believe. We saw a lot of great ball games on Friday, a lot of region titles decided. All of the playoff picture is now clear. But, man, we had some really back and forth, really exciting, just an awesome night of ball games there on Friday.
Yeah, just complete mixed bag. I mean, I feel like it was either like uber competitive games or they were just straight blowouts. But we'll be bringing them all to you, recap all the games, and man, just excited, to go to the playoffs. A little bit bittersweet, we talked about it on the space, is like the regular season, 11 weeks come and gone that quickly. But this is where it really gets fun. Week 1, not so much. You guys will talk about that on Tuesday. But let's talk about this last week of the regular season before we get ahead of ourselves.
We will do it. If you guys are tuning in for the first time, appreciate you. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. at Movin Chains, MOVINCHAINS. Our website, movinchains.com. Our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Like Jerel said, we do a weekly preview show Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Hope you guys will tune in for that. We do our recap show here on Sundays on our podcast platforms. And then we do a live scoreboard show Friday night spaces on Twitter/X. A lot of fun to go through the games with all the fans and the commentators and coaches that hop in with us. It's a lot of fun to do. And then also, before we get into our game that we were at, buy some MTC merch. Got some great stuff for you guys right now. Pictures on our Facebook page, our Twitter page, our Instagram page. You got hoodies, hats, beanies, and everything. Get it for this playoff run. You definitely need it to support the guys. Love to have you guys help us out there. But, Drew, before we take a look over at the ballgame that we were at, the 3A game, let's give a quick shout-out to some friends of the program.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
Come for the deals and stay for the quality with Folly Row. From polos to Q-zips to hats and more, their moisture-wicking, quick-drying, and anti-wrinkle apparel is the perfect blend of comfort and fashion for game day. FollyRow.com and at Folly Row on social media. Folly Row. Very good polos.
Jerel and I were over in Inman at Panthers Stadium for a 3A matchup between the Chapman Panthers and the Broome Centurions with the region crown on the line on Friday night. Jerel, great atmosphere. How about the weather, man? It was, we were able to wear shorts or short sleeves or whatever. An odd feeling for a late October ball game, but just a beautiful night over there in Inman.
Yeah, the flip is going to be, scripted in the next couple of weeks. It's about to get really chilly. That grass is really going to be brown here, by round 2 of the playoffs. But yes, fantastic. It was great to get over there to Inman. That's my first time there. I think it was yours as well. Man, crowd was fantastic. Both sides. Broome brought a great crowd, but it was awesome to see these two heavyweights, fight for that Region 3A championship.
The game started off with Broome getting the ball. A 7-play drive ended with a 25-yard touchdown by quarterback Kamaje Brackett Brandon. They score 7-0 is the score there. 8:54 left in the first quarter. All 7 plays on that drive were on the ground as well. A heavy dose of Jalen McGill, of course. Chapman, they answer right back, a 14-yard touchdown by quarterback Coleman Gray. They make it 7-all, 5:58 left in the first quarter. They stop Broome the next possession, get the ball back, and Chapman drives down and scores again, a 4-yard run by Matthias Scott to go up 14-7, minute 59 left in the first quarter. That's the score at the end of the first. They get another stop against Broome, and they score again, a 1-yard run by Matthias Scott this time. They go up 21-7, 7:36 left in the second quarter. The big play there was a fake reverse deep pass down the middle there on 3rd and long to pick up a big first down and keep that drive going. We thought it was really kind of a danger zone there for Broome, but on the ensuing kickoff, Jalen McGill goes 89 yards to the house to make it 21-14. Chapman, though, once again cannot be stopped on offense. 10-yard run by Matthias Scott, his third touchdown of the half. They go up 28-14 with 2:26 left, and that's the score at halftime. Jerel, and it really could have been worse. And we talked about it there at the ball game while it was happening. They're up 28-14, and they got the ball back with like 2 minutes or so to go, and they were getting the ball coming out of the half as well. We're like, there's a real chance here they could score here, going into the half, get the ball out of the half, score again, and be up 42-14 before Broome touches the ball again. But offense, got a little bit sluggish there into the half, and they kind of take it into the break there. But still, with a 2-score lead for Chapman there, it felt like they were really in command of that ball game.
Yeah, a couple things to point out, though. Rashawn Cunningham, the do-everything wide receiver, north-south selection, for Chapman, was out of that ball game with an injury early. So they kind of lost that element of the deep passing game. But then also, too, you mentioned that kickoff return was so big for Broome. Jalen McGill able to kind of, halt that momentum that Chapman had right there very quickly and keep Broome in that football game. And then before the half, I felt like Chapman got a little conservative. They were having their way on offense. You really felt like they had an opportunity to go 2 minute there and get some points, even knowing that they were going to get that football back to kick off the second half. They kind of just slowed it down, went into excuse me, I'm trying to get it out, get into halftime with the score as it was. And, you really felt like they could really step on their necks and really seize control of that football game. And they kind of let the Centurions hang around there. And, it would almost bite them in that second half.
Like you mentioned, Jerel, Chapman had not been stopped on offense, all game long until that last possession before the half. They scored a touchdown every other drive. So that would have been big there. But Broome kind of figured it out a little bit, enough to be able to stop momentum, I guess, there. And they actually got a stop to start the second half, too, off of Chapman. So they got the ball back. They're able to cut it to a 7-point game with a 2-yard run by McGill about 5:36 left in the third quarter once they got the ball back. So made it a 7-point game. But then Chapman answered the bell, a 24-yard touchdown by Coleman Gray. They take the lead back to double digits there. A huge hole on this one. I think he actually got a celebration penalty for spiking the ball, which, I would not have given him, but whatever. But Chapman goes up 35-21, 20 seconds left in the third quarter. It was a 94-yard drive as well. It was a little bit of a mishap on the kickoff where the guy kind of fumbled it, and it goes out of bounds at the 6-yard line. And just a huge drive there for the Panthers to keep their momentum and stay up by 14. Broome does come back, though, a 40-yard touchdown by Jalen McGill on 4th and 2, make it 35-28. Chapman, they get the ball, they drive down again. This is probably what really decided the game here, Jerel. They got it down to a 4th and 1. I believe it was at the 2-yard line. I think it was the 1-yard line.
Yeah, it was inside the 2.
Yeah, 4th and goal there, and they line up to go for it. The Panthers do, up by 7. Broome calls a timeout. After the timeout, Coach Cabinets and the Panthers decide to kick the field goal to go up by 10, to go up by 2 scores there. It's good. An 18-yarder by Jackson Visser. He makes it 38-28, 6:27 left. Broome does come down, and they do march down and score a touchdown, a 3-yarder by Jalen McGill. They make it 38-35, 3:49 left. Unable to get the onside kick. Chapman gets a couple first downs, runs out the clock, and they win the ball game there at 38-35. It was a weird one, Jerel, in the fact that while it was a 3-point game, it never really felt like it was that close of a ball game. Like, it felt like Chapman had control. Once they took that early lead, it was like, all right, this Chapman kind of could do what they want. But it was, I don't know, it had weird vibes there all night. But, I was really impressed with Chapman. The quarterback, Coleman Gray, is a stud. I'd seen some highlights of his and read his stat lines, but he played really well, I felt like, on Friday, throwing the ball and running the ball. That offense especially was really impressive to me.
Yeah, and I honestly think this game, and no disrespect, I think it just came down to coaching. I think that decision to kick the field goal, even though, it was afforded after a timeout by the opponent, was the correct call. You take the points, you go up 2 possessions. That ended up being the difference in the game, because if you get stopped there, you give everything you've worked for in that game as far as momentum to the Broome sideline and the visitor. And they're going to run the football, so it's not like a situation where they're going to get some first downs probably too. That defense on the Chapman side was getting worn down, so that was the difference in the game. Also, I felt like Broome did not make many defensive adjustments. They kept, playing that too high look where, Cunningham went out of the game basically, the first quarter. He was ineffective. He was a non-factor in that game, and they stuck with that game plan as if Cunningham were still in the game. And, the Chapman coaches they just, hey, you're going to give us a light box. We're going to just run the football. And you saw it. Gray was able to get going. Scott was able to have a very big game running the football, and they were able to control the game. That's why it felt like such a beatdown, because it felt like the Broome defense was on the football field for the majority of the game. They had to have won the time of possession by a large margin, especially in the first half. You had a special teams touchdown. While that was great to get those points, defense had to go right back on the field. So I think this was where, some of Coach Cab's best work. I think it was, he knew what he had. His offensive coaches, they changed their game plan, and they were able to, be effective in the run game. And they did just enough on defense to stop Jalen McGill and Brackett Brandon, to limit them, get enough stops to where they could win that football game. But it was just a heck of a good game. And these are two teams, man. We've talked about it all season. 3A football, especially, I feel like in the upstate, it's going to be some slobber knockers, man. It's once you get through that first round, I mean, it's going to be difficult to advance in the playoffs here.
I think Chapman may have actually had 3 100-yard rushes. I'm not sure if Na got there or not, but he was very close as well. Had a big game from him. But like you mentioned on defense, they obviously gave up some stuff to McGill. Like, that's going to happen. He's, that talented of a player. He's a Division I Power 5 running back. Right now as a sophomore. Brackett Brandon had a couple nice runs, getting anything going in the passing game.
Nothing.
Of course, really there on that side. But, hats off to Coach Cab. Like you said, just stuck to the game plan, didn't get – I feel like a lot of times when something like that happens, it's hard to stay patient. Like, you're like, oh, I want to throw this deep pass, or I want to do this, or I want to get crazy with it, whatever. They were very patient, stuck to the game plan. When the numbers worked, they ran it up the middle. The numbers didn't work. They threw a quick screen, and that was it. I mean, I think that's why Coleman Gray, only had one incomplete pass. He didn't have to do a whole lot because they kept it simple and, just stuck to the game plan. So very impressive there out of the Panthers. We talked to him and quarterback Gray after the ball game. We'll put those in here in a minute, and that's what they said. It's like, this is what we've been doing kind of for all of region play, is this kind of strategy, and it's worked really well. And it was cool to see them executed at a high level on Friday night. They're certainly going to be a contender in 3A. That's their – I didn't realize going into it, Joe, their 7th straight region title for Chapman.
Yeah.
I know they've had a heck of a run under Coach Hodge and now under Coach Cab. That's really cool to see what they're doing there for sure. But any other thoughts on the strategic side of the ball game before we, kick it over to those interviews with Coach Cab and Coleman Gray?
More so just the two players of the game, man, on the Chapman side, Coleman Gray, man, that kid is the real deal. We were leaving there. Coach Cab goes up to us, man, he's the best player in the state. And, there's so many good ones, so it's hard to say. But, man, I was really impressed with his moxie, his poise, his just command of the game, understanding everything that was going on, and execution, like you said. He only had one incompletion the entire game, also ran the football effectively. And then Jalen McGill on the other side. That guy is fantastic. To be a sophomore, he's one of the best running backs in the state. It does not matter the classification, and he's going to give them an opportunity to win every single week, even in the playoffs, just because he is that special. So just excited to see where these two teams, end up, how they shake out in these first few rounds. And I think the way it sets up for Broome, they're going to be playing probably Clinton in the second round, and that's going to be a heck of a game at Wilder Stadium. So excited for these two teams. Congratulations to Chapman. Want to thank all those folks there. Very hospitable. Got to meet some people, before and after the game, that follow our program. So thankful for them. And like we've seen all year, man, it's just another great venue for football in South Carolina.
It really was. Actually, it was great to talk to Coach Cab. I don't think we've actually met him in person until Friday, so that was really cool. We got to talk to Coach Fleming at Broome before the game. Saw our friend RJ Pack, the Chapman fan. Great to get to meet him and talk to him. Some other great folks out there. The one complaint we got to have, Jerel, went to concession stand at halftime. Hot dogs are sold out. That was a bummer, and popcorn as well. Man, I know it's a big game, but come on, guys, you got to at least get through halftime with this stuff. Would love to have a good hot dog there at the ball game, but we luckily did get a pregame meal over at Twin Palmetto there in Inman, so we weren't starving too bad.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you got to get to at least, halfway through the third quarter with the concessions. It's not like you guys are, you're playing for a region championship. You guys you got to have some inventory. You're going to be playing next week here. So I don't know what's going on there, but hopefully, we'll be back over there sometime so we can get our food review. But like you said, Twin Palmetto was fantastic. So just an overall great night of football there.
It really was. We'll put in that interview now with Coach Harry Cabanis and then quarterback Coleman Gray. We do want to apologize in advance for the audio quality. The music was blasting. We were using our mics, but even with the mics, Jerel and Coach Cab were having to kind of, speak up a little bit, yell a little bit, and it got kind of drive-through sound almost coming through. But hopefully it's not too bad for you guys. If you want us to have better equipment, we could use some more sponsors. So call some people, get us more sponsors. We'll buy some really nice mics for next time. But here's those interviews with Coach Cab and then Coleman Gray, the quarterback of the Chapman Panthers.
Jerel Hendricks here, Movin the Chains. We got head coach Harry Cabanis, winners of the Region 3 3A championship. Coach Cab, you got 38-35 over Broome. Sure. You guys really stuck to your game plan. You kind of looked like you were playing a numbers game on the offense. Quick passing and run it when you need to. Is that something that you guys saw, or did you just adjust on the fly?
Honestly, throughout the year, our offensive line just constantly just grinds on people. We lost some key guys at wide receiver, and our next three best players in the backfield. So let's just give them the ball and stay behind our offensive line. That's what we've done all season. That's been our MO, and we're not going to get away from that. That's just who we are.
Jalen McGill, special player over the other side. The ball player. You guys were able to contain him just enough to get that victory tonight.
Sure.
Speak about your defense.
So we kicked it down the middle of the field to him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Anyway.
But, let's talk about how your defense was able to respond even to that.
Yeah, it was just, can we constantly make them do like 3 and 4 yards in a clip instead of just giving them the big play, which he done a couple big runs. We knew he was going to. He's a phenomenal player, and he's an awesome kid, too. I've heard a lot of good stuff about him. I've seen him in passing, and I got a chance to actually coach him in December, that North-South game on that Friday night. So hope y'all are there for that. It's going to be really special.
Midway through the fourth, you had a difficult decision. You had to kick a field goal or go for it on 4th and goal. What led to that?
I'll tell you what led to that. 5 weeks ago, we didn't kick it against Clinton. And we would have gone up 10 points that game, and that game would have been over. So that's just, let's just go ahead and kick it, go up 10, be done with it, put it back on our defense, and then our offense, hopefully we get the ball back. Our offense gets the ball. I trust them.
And then just talk about your senior quarterback, Coleman Gray. What do you mean to your team? Coleman Gray, what do you mean to your team?
Guys, he's a football player. I'm telling you, he's one of the best players in the state right now. And everybody's like, what kind of quarterback? He's a football player. He's the best football player around. So there's no bones. If he's in, we're going to give it to him, and we're going to go as far as he wants to go.
Coach Gavin is here. His team, they win 38-35 in a thriller against Broome. Congratulations, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Kevin Thomas, Movin the Chains here with Coleman Gray, Chapman Panthers quarterback. 35 tonight with Broome. Coleman, you guys kind of playing like a numbers game on offense where you really just count the box, you throw a screen, run it in the middle. That's what you saw, film coming in, or what made you guys kind of go with that game plan?
We've pretty much gone with that game plan throughout region, and it's been working because, we've been blowing out teams. But, we kept with that game plan, and we had stuff in our arsenal to keep other things going and keep pushing the field and just keep putting up points. But we kept that same plays going, same kind of runs that we're doing, and it's just helped us out a lot, and we kept with that.
Star receiver Sean Cunningham goes to early injury. How did that change things for you guys tonight?
It didn't change much. We have guys in place. We have a great group of guys behind him, and we knew that we could fight for him, and he told us that y'all win this for me. He's gonna be all right. It's just a little rolled ankle, but we got guys behind him that we can count on, that we can have their backs, and they can have ours.
Love it. Senior night, you guys are able to go with a big win, clinch the region. How special that be? That night at home, especially.
It's really special. It's really exciting. We've done it 7 years now in a row, and it's a great opportunity to keep that streak going tonight. And we're going to obviously sit on this for 24 hours, like Coach Cav says. We have 24 hours to think about this game, and then we're on to the next. We're gas pedal all the way down throughout this rest of the season, make a run.
Chapman Panthers, 38-35 over Broome. Coleman Gray, North-South selection, big-time quarterback here. Congrats, man.
Thank you.
That was myself talking with Chapman quarterback Coleman Gray. Prior to that, you heard Jerel Hendricks catching up with head coach Harry Cabanis of the Chapman Panthers after their 38-35 win over Broome to clinch their 7th straight region title.
All right, Kev, let's go ahead and move on to our games of the week presented each and every week by our great friends over at Kona. The first one we had over in Cherokee County at the reservation. Burns, they win this football game 33-21 over Gaffney. Region 2, 5A, Crown goes to the Burns Rebels. They rely on that defense heavily in order to extend that lead. Gaffney has a valiant effort in that second half, but just come up a little bit short. The Rebels, they seem like the real deal, man. They are a legitimate state title contender.
4 first-half turnovers for Gaffney. Burns is up 17-0. Probably could have been worse at the break. They come out of halftime, they score a touchdown drive, 80-yarder, ends with a Trey Segar touchdown. They go up 24-0. Could have been lights out right there. Like you said, Gaffney, they fought back hard to get into the game, to have a chance, late. I think they got the ball back with 5 or 6 minutes left, down by less than a score, go 3 and out, and then Armani Weaver takes a screen to the house to kind of seal that one for the Rebels. But they're playing great football, man. The bye week came at a great time for them last week, able to get some guys healthy. RJ Livingston's back on the field, even with the wrist or forearm injury still playing there for them right now. Weaver and Bomar got healthy, and those guys, they're playing great on both sides of the ball, especially the defense right now. Gaffney is tough because I think last we talked about how Riley Staten played maybe his best game as a Gaffney Indian. Turns around this week, and now folks are saying Staten may have played his worst game of the year. So got to get that figured out there for the Indians. Like we know they're going to win some ball games. They'll be there at the end in the 5A playoffs, but would love to have more of them at home for sure if you're Gaffney. But hats off to Coach Shaw and crew. That's a huge win. I think I saw that was Burns' first outright region title since like 2014. Yeah. It's hard to believe, but congrats to the Rebels there. A great squad. Their long loss to that Chapman team earlier this year, but playing good football right now for sure.
Yeah, and I think so with Burns, man. It is still, we talked about the quarterback situation at Gaffney, with Riley not playing his best game. But then again, like Burns, you still have to wonder, like, what are they going to do with the quarterback position? And, but as long as this defense keeps playing the way that they've been playing, it's not going to matter. And they got Trey Segura running the ball. It's not going to matter either. But like you said, congrats to the Rebels. It's a big-time win. Your consolation prize, you get to play a region opponent as an at-large bid in the first round. But I don't see them having any trouble with Dorman there. And like you said, Gaffney, it's going to be a tough out always when you got to face the Indians in the playoffs. But moving on to the Low Country, another 5A matchup. Somerville all over Fort Dorchester, 48-28. This game was kind of close the first half, 21-14. Had some silliness right there at the end of the first half. But Somerville pulls away. Yannick Smith, huge game here.
Yes, he did. On offense and defense. Actually had 2 picks on defense. You'll hear about him more later on in our Player of the Week nominations for sure. As Fort Dorchester, not sure. I didn't get the full details, but I did see they were playing 2 quarterbacks again on Friday. And at this point in the season, that's not really what you want to be doing. I feel like, you want to be settled on the guy for sure. Like, I think they've got a good football team. They've lost a couple tight ones. They lost, Gaffney by 7, lost to Grayson, and now to Somerville. But surprisingly, that the way the game got out of hand in the second half, I didn't think that was going to happen. But Somerville, though, have played really well 2 weeks in a row now. The big comeback win over Ashley Ridge last week. This week, just putting the hammer down against Fort Dorchester. This Green Wave team looks poised to make a deep run in the lower state.
That's the thing we've been talking about too. You're a little bit apprehensive with Somerville playing Fort D. It's like, Fort D's kind of dominated down there for so long. You got to see it happen. And we did in a big way. A 20-point win, really asserts themselves as the best team so far in 5A. They have the best resume, I think. And, I think they're just going to be a very difficult team to beat, especially if Yannick Smith continues to play the way that he has. Fort D, man, that's a valiant effort, man. They've had, so much turmoil in the offseason, interim coach there, and the situation that they've had to deal with. They've just played really good football. These close losses will only, prepare them better. That 2 quarterback situation does scare me as well. But the Green Wave appear to be the real deal. But, Kev, let's stay in the Low Country, but this time head over to 4A. James Island plays a tight one with new rival, I would say, Lucy Beckham. James Island wins this game 24-13, kind of like they've done all year, just keeping teams at arm's length. They really, these tougher games, they really haven't blown out those opponents. But Lucy Beckham, I think that's a valiant effort for their defense to kind of, hold that James Island team to 24 points. But Coach McCoy, man, is just getting it done. 10-0, has done a fantastic job, getting that program to elite status.
A hard-fought physical ball game on both sides. 2 teams that are, really, really physical, and that would have been a great game to be at on Friday night. I know there's some goal line stands there for James Island to help win it and whatnot. And, both these teams, I think, are going to be great rivals here in the future with 2 great head coaches over Coach Smith and Coach McCoy. But I think 2 teams that can certainly make some noise in the playoffs. Lucy Beckham, this is not a bad loss for them at all. James Island is a really good football team, but really cannot wait to see those 2 guys go up against some of the guys like a South Florence and Irmo and even a Hartsville here in the next few rounds.
Peeking at the bracket, I feel like James Island, they got a tough shake kind of like last year. We'll see what they have, for everybody as they continue to progress. But that is a very good football team. And as we always talk about, defense travels, and Lucy Beckham and Coach Smith have one. So hopefully, they continue to do well with their season. The Bengals, man, it's only their second year of, varsity football with the full squad, and they're already making noise. So it's really cool to see that program develop so well, so quickly. But Kev, let's move on to probably the best game in the state, and that was Midland Valley and North Augusta. The streak is over. I know there's been a lot of chatter in that area. People are getting riled up about this, but the New Valley, they win this game 49-48. Just an absolute whale of a football game from literally start to finish. I think everything possible happened in this football contest.
All kinds of back and forth, man. Just unreal, bombs through the passing game, big runs. We had, block kicks at the end. We had all kinds of stuff. I think, one of the key plays was, I believe North Augusta was up 7 in a stretch late in this ball game. Midland Valley scores a touchdown on the ensuing kickoff, able to strip the returner and run it in for a touchdown to give them a lead. That was really what kind of flipped the script there late and had North Augusta chasing, but they get the ball back late. They drive down, the Yellow Jackets do. They score with about 40 seconds left, end up going for it. Corey Tillman stopped just short. They kick the onside kick and recover it, and they get down, I think, the 24-yard line or so, line up for a field goal with Jack Stevens, one of the better kickers in the state. I think he's already made 2 that night, I believe. Ashton Mazzone and the Midland Valley defensive line gets a push, and they block it. Just sends the crowd into a frenzy, man. What a wild ball game there. Hats off to Coach Bush, North Augusta, Coach Chapman at Midland Valley for having their 2 teams ready to roll in this one, man. That one certainly lived up to the hype. Awesome to see, big plays from Dunbar and Butler, and on the other side from Tillman and Doe and Hunt and those guys, man. Just a heck of a ball game. Wish you could have been there for that one, but congrats to Midland Valley. Congrats to Coach Chapman, man. That is just great for him in that program.
Most definitely. From, I think they won 1 game 2 years ago.
Yeah.
10-0, perfect regular season here, and a number 1 seed, winning the region crown. Man, just hats off, like you said, to Coach Chapman, man. We talked to him, last week, had that interview come out. Go check that out. This is a guy, I mean, he didn't, and no disrespect to Midland Valley, but he did not have to go there. I mean, he was a, championship level defensive coordinator with one of the biggest programs at Camden. And he was like, man, why not go to Midland Valley? He wanted that challenge. He said, I was ready for this next step. He gets the great, Trayvon Dunbar to come with him there and really just turn that Mustangs program around. Just really happy to see that. And North Augusta, man, new coach there, Coach Bush, 3 coaches in 3 years, and they just continue to play really good football. Talented players on both sides of the ball there. That's another one, that's a dangerous 2 seed that you're going to have to deal with there. And just a whale of a football game. I really wish we could have been a part of it, man. I mean, we saw a good one. There was a few, man. We could have gone wrong. I think we had 3 of these 6 games that we had kind of circled to go to. And but just happy for all the fans at Midland Valley. I know they're very excited about this. And Kev, to end our games of the week segment, we'll go to our Skis game of the week. We had Holly Hill just flexing their muscle over Jeff Davis. They win this game 36-16. What are your thoughts on this? I did not see this game being a 3-touchdown contest.
Yeah, a really nice get back there for the Raiders. Jefferson Davis beat them earlier this year, 20-22. Huge bounce back here for Holly Hill. Head coach Andy Palmer doing a great job there. Big game from Tyree James and Ashton Souls. He's got to really put 8-man on notice, because I think, everybody knew that these were probably the 2 best teams in 8-man, and then Richard Wynn's probably right there as well in that mix. And we felt like it'd be a tight ball game. You might see it again here in a few weeks in Charleston Southern for the state title, but Holly Hill really answered the call on the road. A big win for those guys.
Again, our games of the week presented by Kona. We had Burns knocking off Gaffney 33-21. Somerville over Fort Dorchester 48-28. James Island defeats Lucy Beckham 24-13. Midland Valley, in a crazy football game, wins 49-48 over North Augusta. And in our Skis game of the week, Holly Hill defeats JDA 36-16. Kev, let's peek down at our Pick'em contest games. Those are presented each week by our friends at Hannah Engineering. And we'll start off with a big-time football game over at D3. I thought this one was going to be close. It was not. Clover, talk about defensive performances in the first half. I think they got back-to-back pick sixes. Just had their way with Rock Hill. They win this football game 58-21.
This is a team that's ran off now 8 wins in a row after starting off 0-2. That's awesome to see for Coach for Coach Woolbright there in his first season. A program that we thought had a really good shot to win this region going into the season. We kind of got a little bit worried there after week 1 and 2, but it played really good since then, man. Hats off to those guys. Jalon Hoover, quarterback's a great player. Landon Stone, the running back's really getting it done for them. Rock Hill is a team that we don't think they're a great football team, thought they were pretty good. And to go on the road there at D3 and just handle business like that, that's really impressive for me for what the Blue Eagles did.
Most definitely. Going on to our next game, we had BHP flexing their muscles over Wren. They win this game 51-14. That backfield just continues to put up numbers. Think they had a special teams touchdown, had a defensive touchdown here. The Bears are the real deal, buddy.
Too much firepower on offense, man. And then for, I guess, maybe their best night of the year on defense as well. Holding that Wren offense to, way under their rushing totals, it seemed like there with Bagwell and Price and those guys. And BHP poised for a deep run. Can't wait to see those guys play against the Chapmans and the Clennons and the Daniels here in a few weeks.
Going over to 1A. This is usually a rivalry game. This game was a close game last year. Not so much this time. Christ Church, they flex, man. They have just continually gotten better this year. They win this football game 34-0 over Southside Christian. Kev, Christ Church, are they peaking at the right time?
It seems like they are, man. They were only up 7-0 at half. Really started leaning on those guys second half. Big game for Deshaun Reeder. Only 13 carries, but $138 and a couple touchdowns there. Tucker Hendricks, a nice game as well. I think he had 190 and a couple TDs through the air. Reeder had 28 carries, not 13 carries, 28 for 138. Sorry there. But yeah, a big game for those guys. And the defense especially to shut out Southside Christian, a team that's got some playmakers on offense. Looked really impressive on that side of the ball. And just, that's huge. Like I thought it'd be a close game, but they blew those boys out, man. They're poised for a deep run.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that kind of, we'll talk about it more later in the week, but Christ Church, man, you kind of were worried with the amount of stuff that they lost, the star power they lost from last year's team, breaking in the new quarterback at Tucker Hendricks, baptism by fire. His first week, he had to go up against that great team. But they've just gotten better, throughout the season, and it looks like they're right there again. They're going to be there with Louisville. I think that's the two teams in kind of the class of 1A in the upper state. That is a statement type win there. But staying in 1A on the other side, you have Bamberg, Earhart, and Whale Branch. This was just a tight, game throughout, but Bamberg Earhart's able to win it 28-10 over Whale Branch. That Bamberg defense just continues to play, fantastic football.
This one was 14-10 at half, I think, and Bamberg scored 2 touchdowns second half to win that one. Chanston Crosby, a couple touchdown passes. That Bamberg team is really deep, really talented, of course. Whale Branch is a little bit of an unknown. It felt like we knew they got some athletes, but didn't know how good they were. They've certainly played well. They're certainly going to be a contender in 1A, but Bamberg just a little bit better right now, it feels like.
Into our last pick'em contest game, had Brooklyn Casey and Gilbert. Slight upset here. Brooklyn Casey's able to win this game 28-21 over Gilbert. Gilbert's just, kind of been flying high all year, especially since that big win over Lexington in the non-region. But BC, man, they're a solid football team. Have really gotten it going since they've inserted the new quarterback.
Yeah, Will Young playing really good there for them. The Shrine Bowl guy, one of the better athletes in the state, doing a great job for Coach Sharpie's squad there. Gilbert's a team that we saw in person, and we knew they were undefeated going into last week, but didn't feel like they were, unbeatable, I would say.
Yeah.
Certainly, that kind of reared its head on Friday. Jalen Jay has been out for a while. I know he was back some, but not sure how healthy he was. The freshman running back Trayvon Williamson has been playing some good ball for them with Drake Braddock there, but big win for BC at whatever, I can't remember this, the new cage, whatever they call it, the new stadium. Big win there for BC. They're going to be a heck of a 1 seed, a team in 3A that we don't talk a lot about, but I think could certainly make a deep run.
Again, in 3A, man, we're talking about Gilbert as a 2. That's how deep this
a 9-1 squad. Yeah,
they lose their first game in week 10. Just going to be a heck of a 3A playoffs there. But again, our pick'em contest games, as always, presented by Hannah Engineering. We had Clover knocking off Rock Hill 58-21. BHP big over Wren 51-14. Christ Church defeats Southside Christian 34-0. Bamberg Earhart over Whale Branch 28-10. And Brooklyn Casey defeating Gilbert 28-21. Kev, let's take a look at our scoreboard here. And if you have any comments, we'll stop here where we need to. But we had some fantastic games. Of course, we will start in 5A. And our first game, Comeback, thriller. Berkeley knocks off Cane Bay 24-21. How many points did they score at the end of this game, Kev?
11 points in 30 seconds, I believe it was there, Jerel, to win that ball game. A last-second field goal by Preston Short. Hats off to Coach Lodge and that squad. I mean, they've got those guys believing. That's kind of been the story of their season where, they really fight and they come up late with the big win, man. It's great to see for that program and the culture changing for sure. They get a home playoff game for the first time in several years. I know that Stag fan base is super excited. I know Slicker and those guys are going to be pumped about that one. Be a great atmosphere down there in Berkeley and Monk's Corner in the next week. So hats off to Berkeley and Coach Lodge on that big win.
From crazy football game in the Low Country to crazy football game in the Midlands, we had Chapin knocking off River Bluff 41-38. Man, this one was wild as well.
Another long field, maybe a 41 or so yard field goal to win that one late for those guys. So awesome to see the kickers getting some shine here in week 10.
Had Sumter knocking off Conway 43-29. That scoreline is a little bit closer than I expected, but you like to see. I think Conway gets an at-large bid into the playoffs there. So good for that squad. I know they've had a rough season so far. Don't look now. Dutch Fork starting to peak at the right time. They win 38-14 over Lexington. Nation Ford over Fort Mill 27-13. Look at this one. Stratford defeats Goose Creek 38-35. Goose Creek doesn't lose in region play, but they did on Friday night.
That gives Stratford the region title via the head-to-head win there. Very surprising to me, because I thought Goose Creek, like you said, just doesn't lose in region play, but big win there for the Knights.
Next one we have is Jerel Man over Hillcrest 42-35. Coach Watson and his squad gets his signature win during his tenure. Obviously, we had some injury issues with Hillcrest. Nonetheless, that is a great win for the Patriots, over the Rams there at Chandler Stadium.
A heck of a back-and-forth ball game here over there at Chandler Stadium. That was a wild one for sure. Like you mentioned, Caleb Sutton went down for the Rams. Early in that one. That was a big loss for them. Huge games from Mikel McClellan and Avery McFadden, two of the better playmakers in the state going at it. Love to see that. Two teams that, can certainly be frisky in the playoffs. You'd rather hit that with 2 seed, probably have a home game there and be in that Jerel Man spot. But two teams that I think can certainly win a game or two, if not more, in 5A Upper State.
Next game we've got Woodmont storms back to beat Malden 34-21. We got Socastee big over Wando 47-7. Spartanburg finds the offense. Finally, they knock off Dorman 35-14, but these are still 2 playoff teams. Everybody in that region is going to end up in the playoffs. Blythewood over Spring Valley 35-6. Carolina Forest, they cement their region crown. They win 35-14 over St. James. Ashley Ridge big over Stall 70-0. Somerville defeats Fort D 48-28. We already talked about that one. Kev, let's go to 4A. Northwestern over Catawba Ridge 52-10. The Trojans just continue to roll. I think that brings the Copperhead season to an end. Bluffton over Colleton County 55-21. Colleton County, though, they get into the playoffs as an at-large. Eastside over Wade Hampton 28-14. Greenville rolls easily 42-14. Greenwood big over Pickens 48-14. Greer wins their region by knocking off Riverside 42-21. Greer's a team we haven't talked about much this year, but they've really turned it on in region play. Hartsville knocks off Wilson 16-3. We got May River over Hilton Head 9-6. Lancaster Indian Land. What was the final? I know that game was played on Saturday.
Yeah, Indian Land won that ball game by 3. I believe it was 29-26, whatever. It was a 3-point win for Indian Land. I do know that.
Awesome. We had Irmo. They finished their season perfect. They knock off Lugoff Elgin 49-0. Myrtle Beach knocks off North Myrtle 56-21. Had Ridgeview over AC Flora 28-7. South Aiken, they storm back over Aiken. They win this football game 42-41. Huge performance by Javon Edwards. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. South Point over York 38-7.
That's a surprise to me. York, that was for the 2 seed in that region. York had looked really good. Obviously lost to Northwestern. Besides that, he played really good in the region. South Point, a team that I thought there was a chance they might just be dead after what Northwestern did to them. But to come back and to handle York like they did, win that game so easily, that was really nice. A really nice bounce back for Coach Collins' squad there.
Yeah, gotta love the Stallions, man. They're used to winning, so you really can't count them out as dead ever. But that is a big time win, especially with that scoreline. South Florence, I think they win their 25th game in a row over rival West, 38-0. Man, they just continue to play fantastic football. Westside huge over Berea, 69-22, and R&E defeats Westwood 48-21.
Yeah, I've got the Indian Land scoreline. It was 25-22 Indian Land over Lancaster there. And then on that South Florence game, that's 25 straight games, not 25 straight over West Florence. Just to
yeah. Sorry.
So we save ourselves from the Knight fans over there for sure. But the Bruins are rolling right now.
Yeah, 25 straight contest wins for the South Florence Bruins. Let me go ahead and clarify that. Sorry about that. We got Philip Simmons in 3A as we kick off 3A. They knock off and bounce back over Battery Creek 43-14. Let's see. We got Crestwood defeating Lakewood 56-0. Daniel rolls Crescent 50-0. God, the Lions are just so good, and they just continue to win. We'll see how they do in the playoffs. Darlington, they get a playoff berth. They knock off Lake City 12-7. Dreer ends the season for Lower Richland. They win that game 21-20. Clinton, they seem to be getting healthy, and like you said, the word of the year, they're playing frisky ball right now. They win 51-13 over Emerald. Dillon, huge over Georgetown. Big game for Jamarian Fling there. They win at 62-14. Hanahan, they win the region crown. They knock off Beaufort 35-24. Kevin, what just a great performance in region, for Hanahan. Coach Turner's first year, there leading those guys. They've beat the defending, state champions in Beaufort 35-24. What a heck of a season for those guys.
Yeah, in the non-region, it felt like they couldn't quite put it together. It was either a good offensive game or a good defensive game, couldn't match them up, or maybe a good first half, bad second half, vice versa, whatever it was. But the last few weeks have been playing really good football, both sides of the ball, the full game. And when this team plays well, they're as good as anybody in the region, of course, and maybe in the state 3A, as you can see. So hats off to the Hawks and Coach Fields and Coach Willis and Coach Turner doing a great job there. Very interesting to see what happens to them in the playoffs.
Most definitely a team that's playing well right now. Loris, they knock off Ainer 49-13. Got Camden huge over Marlboro County 62-7. Don't really know what to say much more about Marlboro County. Powdersville, they beat Palmetto 33-7.
Fun matchup there. Palmetto new head coach Ryan Norton coming over from the Powdersville program. First matchup between him and Coach Muster there. Obviously, the Patriots get the better of them there, but neat to see those guys go at it last week.
Got Fountain Inn getting a big-time win over Southside. They win at 26-16. Orangeburg Wilkinson over Swansea 34-0. TR comes back to beat Blue Ridge 24-21 to win the Battle of the Boonies, as they like to call it over there. Woodruff knocks off Union County 59-40 in just a high-scoring shootout. Manning, they survive Waccamaw 48-43. Pendleton big over Walhalla 54-8. That team, man, that's a scary team in the playoffs because they can just put up points and light up the scoreboard. The Bulldogs can there. Seneca knocks off West Oak 47-6. And that wraps up 3A. Let's jump down to 2. Abbeville, they flex over 96. It's a good story this year for 96, but they weren't quite ready for Big A there. They win that football game 42-0. Got Bishop England over Academic Magnet 24-12. AJ all over Beaufort 59-6. Hampton County destroys Barnwell 33-7. Hampton County playing frisky ball there. Sherrall big over Chesterfield 70-6. Liberty, they win a tight one over Chesney 36-35. Mid Carolina over Eau Claire 38-6. Woodland big over Edisto 57-8. Strom Thurman rolls Fox Creek 43-8. Landrum big over Blacksburg 44-7. Kingstree shuts out Lee Central 36-0. Marion wins the Tobacco Bowl over there. They knock off Mullins 41-8. Fairfield Central over Newberry 35-7. North Central.
Big win there for Fairfield Central. The game was for second place in the region. Newberry is still a younger squad for Coach Jeter, getting better and better, but a big win there for the Griffins and Coach Davis.
Again, I know we'll talk about this later on. Fairfield Central, they took that 2 seed via forfeit to Gray there, but they kind of sets up for them the way the bracket shakes out. Would not be surprised if the Griffins make a run there. Again, North Central over Central 38-36. Oceanside winning a tight one over Timberland 13-7. Another 2 seed to watch out for in 2A is Timberland. That's a good football team, and they're battle tested. If you go look at their schedule, the record might not look good, but they have played some very good football teams and been very competitive throughout. Ridgeland Hardyville over Allendale Fairfax 22-20. Batesburg Leesville comes back in overtime to knock off Saluda 20-17. I still think that they end up being the 3 seed they have some crazy tiebreaker there for second place. But Batesburg Leesville goes on a run at the end of the season. So hats off to those guys. And the 2 seed in that region, Silver Bluff, knocks off Pillion 48-0. In 1A to close things out, we got Baptist Hill over St. John's 29-6. Cross defeats Burke 53-0. Calhoun County big over Wagner Sally 56-8. I got East Clarendon over Scotts Branch 47-8. Latta defeating Green Sea Floyds 41-13. Lakeview shuts out Hannah Pamplico 27-0. Louisville over McBee 58-7. St. Joseph's over McCormick 55-12. HKT defeats RSM 26-20. Ridgeland Hardyville over Allendale, we already had that score. Ware Shoals over Thornwell Charter 64-0. CA Johnson defeats Whitmire 38-6, and that's all I've got for 1A scores, Kev.
Down in the Skeezer ranks, Hilton Head Christian wins a rivalry game over Hilton Head Prep 38-7. Wilson Hall blanks John Paul II 45-0. Richard Wynn 36-8 over Lawrence Academy. Ben Lippin 49-22 over Camden Military. Thomas Hayward, a big win over Patrick Henry 40-19, letting people know they're still a big-time contender in 1A there. Lawrence Manning 48-23 over Trinity Collegiate. Colin Prep 58-14 over Palmetto Christian. Cardinal Newman 48-14 over Augusta Christian. Northside Christian 55-27 over Spartanburg Christian. Lee Academy 54-15 over Kings Academy. Florence Christian beats PD 32-20. Wardlaw 44, King Academy 6. Porter Gap 59-7 over First Baptist. Oakbrook Prep 50-30 over Newberry. Bethesda gets a big 2A win 34-28 over Buford Academy. Dorchester Academy beats Calhoun Academy 29-7. Pinewood Prep 14-13 over Northwood Academy. That's 7 in a row for Coach Holloman's squad there. Faith Christian 46-8 over CCHS. And a couple more we've got here. We've got Williamsburg 43-0 over Carolina. Hammond 41-7 over Heathwood Hall. Dillon Christian 55, Thomas Sumter 28. Clarendon Hall 16-9 over St. John's. And then Orangeburg Prep 41-7 over Greenwood Christian on Friday night. Jerel, let's give a quick shout out to our friends of the program before we move into the next section.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
Carolina Orthopedic and Neurosurgical Associates, KONA, offers the most advanced training and experience in orthopedic surgery, neurosurgery, sports medicine, and pain management in the upstate. 3 convenient locations in Spartanburg, Duncan, and Greenville. Go to kona.care to learn more.
Come for the deals and stay for the quality with Folly Row. From polos to Q-zips to hats and more, their moisture wicking, quick drying, and anti-wrinkle apparel is the perfect blend of comfort and fashion for game day. FollyRow.com and at Folly Row on social media. Folly Row. Very good polos.
Okay, Jerel, a couple of notes I've got from week 10. With Daniel's big win, that marks the 5th straight undefeated regular season for the Lions. They continue to roll as always. And then Javon Edwards, his big game for South Aiken, makes him the all-time rushing touchdown leader there for the Thoroughbreds. And he's got a whole another season to go. So we'll see what that number ends up at next year. But let's take a look now at our stock up, stock down from week 10. Stock up, a couple that I've got, Jerel. Burns, Jailman, and Greer. The Rebels, the big win over Gaffney, giving them that outright region title. A lot of home playoff games. That's huge for them to get that big win on the road. Jailman, like I said, kind of a signature win there for Coach Watson. A come from behind, back and forth and over the Rams of Hillcrest. Big win there for the Patriots. And then Greer, a team that kind of got beat up early on in the non-region schedule, has really played well down the stretch. Got some offensive playmakers with Martin and, Burden, those guys. They played a new guy at quarterback the last few weeks. Has really been good for them as well. So Greer's a team in 4A to look out for as well.
A couple of that I have, James Island, Coach McCoy and his squad, finishing off a perfect season there. They just continue to play fantastic football. And it's crazy because, last year they kind of snuck up on some people. This year they had the target squarely on their back, and they just continued to handle business throughout this year. Chapman, of course, the team that we saw this week, just getting it done. Had that huge win, in the non-region over Burns, who's one of the best teams in 5. They never stumbled throughout this year, man. They just continued to play good football, did just enough to knock off Broome, have 2 of the best players in the state on their offensive side. And, I think they're really poised to make a run in 3A. And then South Point, team we saw last week, able to get off the mat, had a huge win over York to secure that 2nd seed there in one of the most difficult regions in 4A.
Got Christ Church, the big shutout blowout over Southside Christian. Huge win there for the Cavs. Coach Hatfield getting that 1 seed, back-to-back region champs there. Bamberg Earhart, really just pulling away second half. Great win over a good Well Branch team to win the region. Great job by Coach Crosby's squad. And then Thomas Hayward, like I mentioned a minute ago, a team in 1A Skeeza that kind of been written off after winning a bunch of state titles. New coaches, people thought they'd kind of fall off, but they had a big win over those guys, Patrick Henry, on Friday to show that they are still a certain contender in Skeeza.
And to wrap it up, man, Fairfield Central, huge win for those guys, locking up that 2nd seed in a very difficult region. Big-time win over Newberry for them. BC, big-time win over Gilbert, previously undefeated Gilbert. They just have had a quiet season. That insertion of Will Young there has really, boosted that offense there. And then Batesburg-Leesville, that's huge for them. Big winning streak down the stretch. They get the 3 seed, but really, tie for 2nd in a very, very difficult region there. That's a very, great into the season for them, and it's going to only boost them in that the big overtime win over Saluda as they go into the playoffs.
On the stock down side here, I only got a few this week, Jerel. I've got Buford Academy on the Skeeza ranks. They're kind of on a little bit of a losing streak here going into the playoffs, including the loss to Bethesda. That was not a good look for those guys. And then Buford High School as well, falling to Hanahan there by multiple scores. Had a chance to, make a 3-way tie for the region and see how it worked out, but just to lose that ball game and going down to a 3 seed now, playing on the road in round 1 of the playoffs, that's a tough look there for the Eagles.
Yeah, and the final one here is York. At this point, just that tough, loss to South Point. Not the fact that they lost. It's never, a situation of losing a football game, but it's how they lost. You thought they would show a little bit more fight, be a little bit more competitive in that football game, and just weren't able to get it done on Friday.
Looking now at our players of the week, brought to you by the George Agency. Open enrollment is here, whether you need insurance for your business or for yourself. Give those guys a call at georgeagency.net. Bradley and Wayne, Richard, and the crew can certainly help you out there. Jerel, as always, a great group of nominees, a lot of really big performances with, a lot of big stuff on the line as well. So great to see that from these guys. But as always, continue to send us those stats all throughout the playoffs. Love to give you guys a shout out on the program, as we always try to do. But our George Agency players of the week here in week 10, we've got Javon Edwards at South Aiken. 37 carries, 442 yards, 6 touchdowns. Unreal numbers there, Jerel, from Javon. Huge game for him there for the Thoroughbreds. We've got Mr. Do-It-All, Yannick Smith. 10 catches, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a tackle for Somerville. The ECU commit is one of the better players in the state. Very dynamic playmaker there. Hats off to Yannick Smith at Somerville. And then Cam McMillan at Fairfield Central, the quarterback there. The young kid getting it done. 22 for 26, 394, and 3 touchdowns from McMillan. Huge game there for the Griffins. Hats off once again to Javon Edwards at South Aiken, Yannick Smith at Somerville, and then Cam McMillan at Fairfield Central. Jerel, who are some other guys we've got that got some nominations here in the Week 10 slate?
Yeah, just get prepared to hear some familiar names because these guys just continue to do very good things on the football field. But the first one, of course, Jules Huntley, previous winner from Florence Christian, has 20 carries for 295 yards and 5 more touchdowns. Huge game for him. Jaden Eason, baby man, over at Silver Bluff, had 10 tackles, 6 TFLs, and 3 sacks. That defensive line at Silver Bluff is nasty. Preston Short, let's show the specialist some love here at Berkeley. We talked about how they had a huge scoring spree at the end of that football game. Well, Preston was a huge part of that, had a successful onside kick and then proceeds to kick the game-winning field goal in that football game to have a home playoff game, for Berkeley for the first time in a while. Tristan Lewis, the quarterback at Greenwood, goes 5 for 8 for 187 yards and 4 touchdowns. Talk about efficient, Kev. Not the best at math, as I always say, but 5 completions, 4 touchdowns. That's getting it done right there. Got Kevin Boone at Berkeley, 9 catches for 238 and 2 touchdowns. The do-it-all youngster quarterback, Henry Rivers at Berkeley, 20 for 37 for 308. 2 touchdowns, 13 carries for 63 yards, and a 2-point conversion on the ground. The future's bright down there for the Stags. Drew Spires, Mr. Do-It-All at Richard Wynn, 6 catches for 201, 4 touchdowns, and 11.5 tackles. Michael McClellan at Jerel, man, huge win over Hillcrest. He had 8 catches for 229 and 2 touchdowns. His counterpart, Mr. Football finalist Avery McFadden over there at Hillcrest, had 7 catches for 203, 2 touchdowns, and a 38-yard pick six. I didn't even know. I looked at you at the game on Friday. I didn't even know Avery played defense, but when they need him to, he's over there making plays, scoring touchdowns too. So that's cool to see Avery. Congrats again to him from being a Mr. Football finalist. Got Zion Dobson at Hampton County, 27 carries for 273 and 5 touchdowns. Another Mr. Football finalist, absolute stud there for the Hurricanes. Kelvin Hunter, the South Carolina commit at West Florence, had 12 tackles and a tackle for loss. Matthias Scott at Chapman, we saw him in person, 20 totes for 176 and 3 touchdowns. Just a fantastic performance for him. Coleman Gray, the quarterback, gunslinger there at Chapman, goes 12 of 13 for 112, but really got it done on the ground, had 17 carries for 135 and 2 touchdowns. Jalen McGill, stud running back, sophomore over there at Broome, 22 carries for 155 and 3 touchdowns. Also had that 89-yard kickoff return touchdown. That kid is the real deal. Speaking of real deals, Braylon Staley at Strom Thurmond continues to get it done. Tennessee commit goes 7 catches for 104 and 3 touchdowns. Heading back to Silver Bluff, Jaden Fuller, 10 carries for 126, 2 touchdowns. Also had 7 tackles, a sack, and 2 quarterback hurries. Mr. Do Everything, Trayvon Dunbar over there at Midland Valley, 27 carries. He had to, triple his production this week as far as like his workload of carries, but it didn't matter. He still had 322 yards, 4 touchdowns, and gets rid of that 23-game losing streak for Midland Valley over North Augusta. Trey Dunbar is one of the best players in the state, and he showed it again on Friday. And over at North Augusta, Corey Tillman goes 15 of 240, 3 touchdowns, 16 carries for 165 and another touchdown. Man, what a football game that must have been down there in Graniteville. But congratulations to all of our nominees. These are some fantastic performances, especially like you said in the games, so much on the line in these games, and these guys just were studs, when it all mattered. And congratulations to all the nominees, and of course to the 3 winners this week.
For sure. Like I said, guys, continue to send us these stats each and every week in the playoffs, too. We'll definitely give everybody a shout-out on the program. Love to do that and love to see who shows up big when it really matters here, when it's win or go home. But let's get a shout-out to our 3 players of the league, brought to you by Georgia Agency, Javon Edwards at South Aiken, Yannick Smith at Somerville, and Cam McMillan at Fairfield Central. Drill. Let's give a shout-out to our friends of the program before we come back with our Folly Row question.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
The Georgia Agency has been serving the insurance needs of South Carolina for over 40 years. They're a full-line insurance agency concentrated in employee benefits and health insurance with an office in Mullins and Murrells Inlet, but they can help you all across the state. They have clients in Greer, Rock Hill, Columbia, and more, so wherever you are, they can help. Give Bradley, Wayne, Richard, and the crew a call or check them out online at thegeorgiaagency.net. That's thegeorgiaagency.net.
Come for the deals and stay for the quality with Folly Row. From polos to Q-zips to hats and more, their moisture-wicking, quick-drying, and anti-wrinkle apparel is the perfect blend of comfort and fashion for game day. FollyRow.com and at Folly Row on social media. Folly Row. Very good polos.
Our Folly Row question for today, Jerel, is one that certainly makes sense and comes up this time of year every year, I feel like, and that's what the playoff brackets of South Carolina High School League does. Do you prefer the way that they do it where it's all kind of preset, where it's, region 1, number 1 is going here, region 1, number 2 is going here, and vice versa, where it's laid out, months in advance? Or would you prefer if we had some kind of, maybe ad hoc committee or, just impartial committee that really maybe you take the top 3 or 4 teams at each region, but then you let that committee seed them, or what would you like to see here in the playoff picture? Because I'll tell you, for me personally, I would like to see some kind of seeding system. I know who the better teams in 3A and 4A and 5A are. I want them to play later on in the playoffs. I don't want them to have to get matched up in round 2 or whatever it is. But that's just my personal opinion. How do you feel about the playoff brackets they do, Jerel?
Yeah, I got to agree. I think that they need to have some sort of system to where, like you said, a committee, which is always bring the human element in it. That makes things fun. But I think there should be some sort of committee that kind of decides a seeding system, because also I think it would give some benefit to, your non-region scheduling. You could also take that into account where you could look at, who did these guys play, non-region. So if, you play a bunch of cupcakes, or, you're a higher class school and you schedule a bunch of lower class schools and you win and your record's 10-0 and you really haven't played anybody, that way you're not kind of rewarded for it. There's some kind of, element to it that examines and rewards, difficult schedule. And even then, maybe you have a record where you're 6-4, you look at a team like a Timberland, they're going to be a 2 seed, but they've played a very, very difficult schedule, some of those teams like that. So I think there should be some sort of seeding, because there's going to be some ones that are going to have some difficult roads to hoe, and then there's going to be some different situations where there's going to be a 1 seed where they're really not going to face a test until they might get until the lower upper championship. So I think that would add a little bit of fairness to it, and then also just add some value to that non-region slate.
Yeah, and that's what I don't mind if they have a pre-qualifier of all right, this many teams from each region are going to make it. That's just how it's working. That's fine with me. But I think once you have those teams, then we should let it be seeded at that point. That would be how I would prefer to do it. But I know the high school league, I think they're kind of stuck on what they're doing right now. We'll see if that ever changes. I don't know. But that's what I would recommend. That's what I would prefer. But, we'll see how that shakes out there, Jerel. But, this has been a great week 10, as always, man. A lot of great ball games across the state. We had a lot of fun at Chapman and Broome, as always. But hope you guys will check us out on all social media, Facebook, Twitter /X, Instagram, YouTube, etc. at Movin Chains. MOVINCHAINS. MovinChains.com is our website. Podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Jerel and I do a weekly recap show. Comes out on Sundays on our podcast platforms. We'll continue to do so throughout the playoffs. We do a weekly preview show live on Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Hopefully you guys will join us there and ask about your favorite team. We'll talk through all the playoff matchups, our favorites, our predictions, all that stuff will come up this week. So that'll be a lot of fun to talk through. And then we'll do our Friday night spaces on Twitter /X, our scoreboard show on Friday night about 10:30, 11, where we go live and go through the scores from across the state. We've got different fans who hop in, talk about their team. We got different play guys hop in, some coaches hop in. It's a lot of fun to do that as well. So hopefully you guys will join us on all those platforms. And like I said, as always, check out our merch. Pictures on our social media page. And you guys need to get you a hat, get you a hoodie, get you a beanie. The cold weather's here. Check it out. Richardson hats, Yupong hats, really, really comfortable hoodies. I mean, one of the best comfortable hoodies I've got. So definitely buy you one of those as well.
Yeah, for sure. Get some merch, get some Folly Road merch, get some MTC merch. But one thing before we get out of here, man, I wanted to say is always as someone who played the game of football and only, got to the high school level, a lot of the teams, ended their seasons. Just want to say thanks to those coaches and those communities and more importantly, those players, those senior players. You never lose the urge to want to play football, if this is your last time you're hanging it up. So I just want to thank them for all their contributions to football in the state of South Carolina and their respective teams and communities. So just want to say thanks and congrats to those guys, and just looking forward to it, man. The playoffs are a lot of fun. This is a fun time of the year. Like you mentioned, Tuesday we'll be breaking down these brackets, kind of doing a playoff preview. Really excited to do that and see who's got a shot, who's got a chance to end up in Orangeburg in a few weeks.
Will be a lot of fun for sure. But this has been our Week 10 recap show brought to you by Folly Row. Moving the Chains is always brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. For Jerel Hendricks, I'm Kevin Thomas. We will catch you guys soon.